There exists a particular vulnerability in loving someone who announces, from the beginning, that ordinary laws do not apply to them, not because they possess actual exemption from consequence, but because their charm has convinced you, and perhaps themselves, that brilliance, breeding, or philosophy places them beyond the rules governing lesser people. When your lover quotes Nietzsche over champagne, flew with the Red Baron in the war, moves in circles with rising Nazi officials, you do not simply fall for a man. You fall for the idea that you have been chosen by someone exceptional, creating a bond where intellectual fascination and romantic submission become impossible to separate. November 12, 1935. Beekman Tower rises against Manhattan's skyline, 26 floors of Art Deco ambition housing the city's unmarried wealthy. The elevator ascends past the 19th floor, where a 31-year-old woman has just written her will, past the 20th, where guests sleep unaware, to the 21st floor, where a married German financier waits in his nightshirt, believing his charm can smooth over what he announced 4 days earlier, that he will never divorce his wife, that their year-long affair must continue on his terms, that no one leaves him before he permits it. She climbs the back stairs, coat over nightgown, a .32 caliber revolver in her purse, the same weapon she showed him in June. For burglars, she claimed, an aquamarine ring on her finger that she believed was engagement, that he meant as ornament. Inside her handbag, bullets, her will, a silk nightgown, and certainties about to shatter into 4 gunshots that will echo through marble corridors and American courtrooms and legal history. By dawn, one body will cool on a bedroom floor. One woman will confess immediately but refuse explanation. And one question will consume New York for 5 months. When a man demands what 1936 calls unnatural, does a woman have the right to fire 4 times rather than submit the answer? It will turn out. Depends entirely on who tells the story. Chapter 1. The Virtue Trap. 1936. New York State penal law defines sodomy as any oral contact between persons, punishable by 20 years imprisonment. The statute applies regardless of consent, regardless of marriage, regardless of circumstance. Enforcement proves selective prosecutors rarely pursue cases between husband and wife, but the law remains. A legal landmine waiting for the desperate to stumble upon. 3 Mitchell Place, where First Avenue meets East 49th Street. Beekman Tower rises 26 stories, designed by John Mead Howells in the Art Deco style that promised a modern future. Opened in 1928 as residential hotel for Manhattan's unmarried wealthy. Monthly rates range from $150 to $300, $3,000 to $6,000 in modern currency. The tower markets itself to new women seeking urban independence, professionals who can afford privacy and elevation above the city that still questions their morals. The marble lobby speaks of progress. The elevators ascend toward freedom. But the law follows women into even the tallest buildings. Liberation, it turns out, extends only as far as legislation permits. Alabama, 1931. 9 black teenagers stand accused of raping 2 white women on a freight train. The evidence crumbles under examination. Medical testimony contradicts the accusations. The women's stories shift with each retelling. Still, all white juries convict. The attorney who takes their appeals, Samuel Leibowitz, demonstrates how sexual assault allegations can override physics, medicine, and reason when juries want to believe the worst. His strategy dismantled racist assumptions while protecting white womanhood's sanctity. The contradiction inherent in defending innocent men by reinforcing the myth of women's sacred honor, will serve him well in future cases involving guilty clients. By March 1936, the Scottsboro boys' appeals continue. Leibowitz juggles two trials, one defending innocent men in Alabama, another preparing to defend someone considerably less innocent in Manhattan. Same lawyer, same brilliance, infinitely different circumstances. Women cannot serve on New York juries in 1936. 12 men will decide questions of women's honor, women's sexuality, women's right to refuse. 12 men will determine whether a woman's word about what happened in a bedroom carries more weight than a confession, physical evidence, and documented premeditation. The first woman will serve on a New York jury in 1937, 1 year too late for this case. Sing Sing Prison, 30 miles north of Manhattan. Since 1891, hundreds have died in the electric chair. Women rarely face execution. Society recoils from killing ladies, even when ladies kill. But first-degree murder conviction carries mandatory death penalty. The chair waits, wooden and patient, for those the law decides deserve it. Europe, 1935. Adolf Hitler consolidates power while Americans watch with growing unease. September brings the Nuremberg laws, codifying racial hatred into German legislation. American newspapers report Nazi atrocities with increasing alarm. German nationals living in the United States face mounting suspicion, pressure to prove their distance from the Reich's ideology. The United States has not yet entered the war, maintains diplomatic relations, but sentiment shifts beneath the surface. A German man's philosophy, his associations, his politics all become ammunition for American prosecutors seeking conviction. In this world, where a woman's honor functions as currency and her sexuality as crime, where protecting white womanhood serves multiple legal purposes, where German connections carry growing stigma, Vera Stretz will discover that the space between liberation and legislation measures exactly the width of 4 bullets. The tower promises independence. The law promises consequences. The courtroom will decide which promise holds. Chapter 2. The bandleader's daughter, Vera Stretz. 31 years old in November 1935. Though sources disagree on even this basic fact, New York University educated in an era when female college graduates remain uncommon enough to merit newspaper mention. Unmarried at 31, which 1935 considers spinster territory past the age when respectable women should have secured husbands. Lives alone in Manhattan, maintaining independence on inherited money rather than employment. Fluent in German, better than many native speakers. The skill suggests European education or extensive travel, neither confirmed in available records. Her fluency will prove useful for romance and fatal for her reputation. $35,000 inherited from her mother's estate. The mother died sometime before December 1934. The exact date vanishes into unrecorded family history. In modern currency, approximately $770,000 enough to live comfortably, travel first class, maintain appearances, not enough to be untouchable. Time magazine characterizes her as possessing small independent income, no occupation. The inheritance will purchase freedom twice, once for the Caribbean cruise where she meets her lover, again for the lawyer who saves her from execution. Frank Stretz, her father, well-known musician and bandleader in New York. Those specifics about his performances, his venues, his particular genre of music escape documentation, prominent enough that when his daughter faces murder charges, he can send for Samuel Leibowitz immediately. Wealthy enough to afford Leibowitz's fee, estimated at $10,000 or more in 1936, equivalent to 220,000 in modern currency. The kind of connection that separates defendants who receive top legal representation from those who receive whatever the court assigns, not wealthy enough to be untouchable, but connected enough to access power when catastrophe arrives. December 1934. Vera Stretz books first-class passage on the Vulcania, steamship bound for the West Indies and Caribbean. The inheritance permits luxury travel. She boards alone, seeking what new women supposedly seek: experience, adventure, escape from New York's social constraints that still judge unmarried women harshly while celebrating unmarried men's freedom. The ship's passenger manifest includes her name among hundreds of others. One of those others will change everything. She crosses the Atlantic toward sun and warmth, toward islands where American rules feel distant, toward a New Year's Eve in Havana that will set in motion events ending in gunfire at Beekman Tower. No romantic scandals appear in her past. The New York Times Index contains no mentions of Vera Stretz before November 1935. Her father's musical connections grant her access to cultured circles, but she navigates them without generating gossip column interest. Independent lifestyle, yes. Scandalous, no. By 1930 standards, a woman living alone on inherited money occupies ambiguous social territory, liberated or pathetic depending on who judges. She represents the promise and peril of the new woman. Liberated enough to travel alone, educated enough to quote philosophy, independent enough to maintain her own residence, vulnerable enough to believe a married man's promises about divorce, old enough to be desperate, young enough to be reckless. The Vulcania departs New York Harbor. First-class accommodations. December sea crossing, heading south toward Caribbean warmth. Vera Stretz, 31, unmarried, German-speaking, heir to moderate fortune, daughter of a bandleader whose name opened doors but not vaults. The ship carries her toward a man who will die by her hand. But that comes later. First comes the kiss at midnight in Havana. First comes the seduction. First comes the belief that this time, this man, this romance will transform her from spinster to wife, from independent woman to respectable married lady. The inheritance that pays for the cruise will eventually pay for her defense. Both purchases, in their way, by survival. The cruise merely postpones what the legal defense will finalize: her transformation from Vera Stretz into someone, anyone, else. Chapter 3. The Nietzschean Lover. Dr. Fritz Gebhardt, 42 years old. Though he carries himself as if age were merely another convention ordinary men observe. Doctorates in philosophy and political economy from German universities. War hero, flew with the Richthofen squadron, the Red Baron's legendary unit. Survived when so many did not. Friend and associate of Hermann Göring. Fellow Richthofen pilot, rising star in Nazi Party leadership. Made approximately $500,000 in international business deals, importing and exporting between Europe and America. Leading candidate, according to contemporary sources, for German ambassadorship to the United States. Married, 2 daughters in Karlsruhe, Germany. Wife is non-Aryan, which from Nazi Germany's perspective constitutes a mistake, violates racial purity laws, complicates his political standing. He is separated from her, moved out, but never divorced. Tells Vera the marriage has been in name only for 10 years. Whether this is truth or convenient fiction, she chooses to believe it. Time. Magazine later characterizes him as vaguely connected with the German Nazi movement for the sake of his importing business. vague connection, or genuine sympathy, the association exists. In 1935, before war makes such connections unambiguous treason. Wealthy Germans can maintain profitable businesses while navigating Nazi Party politics. Gebhardt navigates well enough to remain considered for ambassadorship, despite the non-Aryan wife he will not divorce. He tells Vera what becomes central to everything that follows: ordinary laws applied to ordinary people. But for an unusual person, there must be different standards. She will testify later that he told her he loved her, then told her he was an unusual person, and she was fascinated by him. Philosophy as seduction technique. Nietzsche deployed not for intellectual exploration, but for justifying whatever the Superman desires. The quote Leibowitz will later emphasize to the jury: man shall be trained for war and woman for the recreation of the warrior. All else is folly captures Gebhardt's worldview perfectly. Women exist for recreation. Laws exist for ordinary people. He is neither. December 1934. Aboard the Vulcania. Two passengers meet, begin conversing in German. Her fluency exceeds his English, so they speak his language. Casual friendship develops. By April, they quote Oscar Wilde. By May, everything changes. New Year's Eve, 1934 becoming 35. Havana, Cuba, where the ship stops for celebration. They dance through the night. At midnight, stroke of 12, they kiss. The moment she falls, or the moment she decides she has fallen. Sometimes the difference matters less than the decision to commit. Back in New York, the crew's acquaintanceship continues. His wit, his charm, his intellectual pretensions all deployed with precision. He flies combat missions in the Great War, survived Richthofen squadron casualty rates, now applies tactical thinking to seduction. She represents a target to acquire, maintain, control. May 1935. Weekend trip to Lake George, New York. They register at the hotel as Mr. and Mrs. Gebhardt. She becomes his mistress, per Time magazine's delicate phrasing. Whether she knows at this point about the wife and daughters in Karlsruhe, whether she asks, whether he lies or merely omits the record, does not preserve these details. She believes the marriage is effectively over. She believes divorce is forthcoming. She believes June 1935. She goes to work at his Fifth Avenue import firm, Frank von Knoop and Company, becoming what tabloids will later call his office wife, the phrase popularized by Faith Baldwin's novel of that name. Secretary, companion, lover, all contained in one convenient package 2 floors below his Beekman Tower apartment. June 1935. She shows him a small revolver. For burglars, she explains, 5 months before she will fire it 4 times into his chest. The prosecution will present this as devastating premeditation evidence. The defense will argue she always carried protection, living alone in the city. Both interpretations rest on the same fact: she had the gun. She showed it to him. He knew it existed. By June, she has moved to Beekman Tower, 19th floor. He occupies 21st floor, 2 floors above, close enough for late-night calls, far enough to maintain separate addresses, separate lives, deniability about the affair's nature. They exchange scores of impassioned letters. He calls her Vereline, dear girlie in German diminutive. She calls him darling Fritzi. She writes that he makes her feel feverish with desire. He writes that the fastest steamer is not fast enough to bring him home to her. Whether these words represent genuine passion or theatrical performance, Vera believes them completely. She builds her future on love letters promising what he never intends to deliver. The pattern establishes itself. Late-night telephone calls claiming stomach cramps. She comes with heating pad, nurses him through pain, fulfills the caretaking role he desires, once a week, sometimes more. The calls always late, the summons always urgent, her response always immediate. The dynamic of control masked as need, dominance disguised as vulnerability. Dr. Fritz Gebhardt was, reportedly, involved with numerous lovers in New York City. Vera Stretz was only one among several. This, according to later research, drawing on vintage newspaper accounts and ancestral documents. The prosecutor will argue she killed in hot fever of jealousy when Gebhardt would not give up his wife for her. Whether other women exist, whether Vera knows about them, whether jealousy truly motivated the murder, these questions will hang over the trial like the smoke from 4 gunshots. Early November 1935. Gebhardt returns from European trip. Vera assumes he traveled to Germany to finalize divorce, to clear the way for their marriage. He brings different news. He has discovered in his travels that he is not the marrying kind. Their relationship will continue as before, her as mistress, him as married man maintaining wife in Germany. No divorce, no marriage, no transformation from secret affair to respectable union. He tells her ordinary laws do not apply to unusual people. She has fascinated him. He has fascinated her. But fascination does not require marriage. The Superman does not marry his recreation. Philosophy as pickup line becomes philosophy as breakup excuse. Nietzsche deployed to seduce, now deployed to discard. 9 days later, 4 bullets. But first, 2 days of will writing and decision-making and climbing 26 flights of stairs with a revolver in her purse. The gun she showed him in June for burglars will fire in November for reasons that depend entirely on who tells the story. Chapter 4. The Aquamarine Ring, July 1935. Before departing for Germany on business, Fritz Gebhardt gives Vera Stretz an aquamarine ring. The stone catches light, throwing blue-green refractions across her apartment. She interprets the gift as every woman in her position would interpret it. Engagement. Proof that the months of affair will culminate in marriage. Evidence that his promises about divorce were truth, not seduction. She tells friends to hurry with the wedding invitations. Plans a future she believes he has promised. The aquamarine sparkles with certainty she never questioned, because questioning would mean admitting she has given a year of her life to a man who might be lying. He departs for Europe. She believes he travels to finalize divorce from the non-Aryan wife in Karlsruhe. Believes he will return free to marry her, transform her from mistress to wife, from secret affair to respectable union. 4 months of separation, 4 months of letters, 4 months of building a future in her imagination while he conducts business across the Atlantic. The love letters continue. She writes of fever and longing. He writes that no steamer is fast enough to bring him home. Whether he means any of it, whether he ever intended marriage, whether the ring signified engagement, or merely expensive gift, she will never know with certainty. She knows only what she believed. November 8, 1935. Gebhardt returns to New York. Vera waits with plans, expectations, wedding invitations ready for addressing. He announces he has discovered in his travels that he is not the marrying kind. The phrasing varies across sources, not the marrying kind. Not the type to get married, but the meaning remains consistent. No divorce, no marriage, no transformation from what they are to what she believed they would become. The relationship will continue as before. Her as mistress, him as married man. His wife remains in Germany. Vera remains in the apartment 2 floors below his. Nothing changes except her understanding of the situation. She tells him she cannot have that kind of life anymore, cannot bear it, wants a home and husband. He responds, according to her later testimony, "No one has ever left me before, and you are not going to leave me." Prophecy and threat combined. The Superman who believes ordinary laws do not apply also believes ordinary outcomes, women leaving, relationships ending, consequences following actions do not apply either. November 8th marks the end of one story and the beginning of another. The romance dies. The crime gestates. November 9th or 10th sources do not specify which day, only that it occurs 2 days before the murder. Vera Stretz sits in her 19th floor apartment and writes her will. The document's contents remain undisclosed: who she names as beneficiary, what assets she claims to possess, what instructions she leaves for disposal of her $35,000 inheritance. Prosecutors will find the will, but never reveal what it contains. She also writes a suicide note. Again, contents undisclosed. Whether she blames Gebhardt, apologizes to her father, explains her despair, or simply says goodbye. The document exists in police evidence but not in public record. 2 documents, one anticipating death, one explaining it. Written 2 days before she climbs the back stairs with a revolver in her purse. Did she plan murder-suicide? Did she intend to shoot him and then herself, ending both lives in Beekman Tower's Art Deco corridors? Or did the documents represent despair that hardened into rage, suicide, contemplation, that transformed into homicide determination? The will and note prove premeditation. What they do not prove is premeditation of what? November 11th, 1935. Late night. The telephone rings in Vera Stretz's apartment. Fritz Gebhardt claims great stomach pain, the pattern established over months of late-night calls. She has responded before heating pad, nursing care, the caretaking dynamic that binds her to him even as he refuses to bind himself to her through marriage. She puts a coat on over her nightgown, slips into shoes, takes her purse, the purse that contains the .32 caliber revolver she showed him in June. The revolver for burglars. The revolver that has waited 5 months for this moment. She goes to the back stairs. Not the elevator where other residents might see her. Not the public route where night staff might remember her passage. The back stairwell, narrow and dim, climbing from 19th floor to 21st, each step a decision, each landing an opportunity to turn back. She does not turn back. What happens in Fritz Gebhardt's bedroom depends on who tells the story. Vera's version, delivered later through 13 hours of testimony and violent, uncontrollable sobbing. She announces she will not continue the relationship. He becomes violent. She testified he forced himself on her. Afterward, according to her account, he mocked her distress. Then he demands she perform an act legally defined as sodomy, so shameful she could not name it to police. The act, understood by everyone in the courtroom, though never named explicitly, means oral sex. In 1936 New York, sodomy, felony punishable by 20 years, moral degradation beyond articulation, social death for any respectable woman who admits to it, whether forced or consenting. She shoots him to defend her honor. 4 bullets. .32 caliber revolver, firing 4 times into the man who demanded what she could not, would not, provide. Self-defense against sexual assault becomes the cornerstone of her defense. The prosecutor's version, argued by Miles O'Brien during cross-examination. She kills in hot fever of jealousy. Gebhardt will not give up his wife, will not marry her. Perhaps she knows about the numerous other lovers reportedly populating his New York social circle. She is, O'Brien insists, a tigress when provoked, The shooting represents rage, not self-defense, premeditation, not spontaneous protection of honor. The physical evidence supports both interpretations and neither exclusively. 4 gunshots from her revolver confirmed. Gebhardt found on bedroom floor in nightshirt confirmed. Bullet trajectories, range of fire, defensive wounds on the victim not documented in available sources. Medical examination of Vera for rape evidence never mentioned, which constitutes significant omission. If rape occurred, why no medical examination? If self-defense was genuine, why no effort to document physical trauma? No medical evidence of rape presented? No defensive wounds on Gebhardt documented? But also no contradiction in her testimony found. O'Brien cross-examines for 4 hours, finds nothing to shake her story. The truth remains inaccessible, locked in a bedroom where only 2 people were present and 1 is dead. The cultural context matters. In 1936, oral sex equals sodomy equals felony equals moral degradation. Who would lie about something so shameful? What respectable woman would invent a story that requires her to testify? Through violent sobbing about sexual acts, respectable women supposedly do not know exist. The shame itself becomes evidence of truth, because lying would require less humiliation than the truth she claims. Or Vera Stretz and Samuel Leibowitz, who will defend her, understand that 12 men in 1936 would rather believe murder was justified than believe a respectable woman would submit to oral sex. The perfect defense because the act itself is so unspeakable that claiming it happened requires more courage than inventing a simpler lie. Did it happen? The bedroom holds the answer. The bedroom and the 2 people present. One will testify, one cannot. The jury will decide whom to believe, the living woman or the dead man's reputation. November 12, 1935. Approximately 2:30 in the morning. 4 shots echo through Beekman Tower. Mary Hazelton on the 20th floor wakes to rapid cracks, unmistakably gunfire. She telephones the front desk. Assistant night manager Leslie Tate takes the elevator up, searches floor by floor. On the 19th floor, he finds a woman in grey coat with chinchilla collar, sitting calmly by the elevator. She directs him upward. Up there, she says. The door is open. 21st floor. Fritz Gebhardt lies on his bedroom floor. 168 pounds of dead German businessman in blood-soaked nightshirt. 4 bullet wounds. 5'8" body collapsed where the Superman theory could not save him from .32 caliber reality. Vera Stretz descends the back stairs, reaches the 3rd floor landing, finds the accordion gate padlocked, cannot proceed, abandons the stairwell, rings for the service elevator. When the doors open, police officers John Holden and Walter Mitchell stand inside, responding to Tate's call. They demand her purse. She refuses. Holden tears it from her grasp. Inside the revolver, box of bullets, 2 spent shells, crumpled silk nightgown with fresh, wet bloodstains, her will, written 2 days earlier, Fritz Gebhardt's passport, Fritz Gebhardt's apartment key. Did you shoot Dr. Gebhardt? Yes, I did. But please don't ask me why I did it. She confesses immediately, refuses explanation, says she was on her way to turn herself in, though the padlocked gate suggests otherwise. Will say nothing more about motive despite hours of police interrogation. The evidence proves she killed him. The will proves she anticipated death. The back stairs prove she avoided witnesses. The bloody nightgown, the passport, the apartment key. Each item raises questions she will not answer until trial forces her to testify. Frank Stretz sends for Samuel Leibowitz, the best criminal lawyer in the country. 77 capital murder cases, 77 acquittals, 0 convictions. If anyone can save his daughter from Sing Sing's electric chair, Leibowitz can. 4 months of silence follow. 4 months while Leibowitz builds the defense. 4 months while newspapers call her the icy blonde because she will not speak. The gun she showed Gebhardt in June for burglars fired 4 times in November. Whether for self-defense or jealous rage, whether protecting honor or protecting ego, whether truth or brilliant legal fiction, the trial will decide. The aquamarine ring, symbol of promises made or misunderstood, remains on her finger through arrest, interrogation, imprisonment, evidence of what she believed. Proof of nothing except the belief and reality sometimes diverge fatally. Chapter 5. 4 bullets at 2:30 a.m., 2:25 in the morning, November 12, 1935. Vera Stretz climbs the back stairs of Beekman Tower, coat over nightgown, shoes slipped on hastily. Purse heavy with the .32 caliber revolver she showed Fritz Gebhardt in June. For burglars, she told him then, 5 months ago, 19 floors below. Her will sits on her desk, 2 days old, in her purse, among bullets and the gun. Her note waits. Each step upward, a decision. 19th floor to 20th, 20th to 21st. The stairwell narrow. Art Deco fixtures, casting dim light on marble steps. No witnesses here. No elevator operator to remember her passage. Just climbing. 21st floor. The back stair door opens onto the corridor. Fritz Gebhardt's apartment. The door she has entered dozens of times, answering late-night calls about stomach pain, bringing heating pads and comfort and the caretaking that binds her to a man who will not marry her. She enters. What happens next exists in 2 versions. Her version will require 13 hours of testimony and violent sobbing to tell. His version died with him. 2:30, 4 shots. Sharp cracks echoing through corridors designed for elegance, not violence. .32 caliber revolver firing once, twice, 3 times, 4. Each shot a decision. Each bullet a punctuation mark ending a sentence that began with an aquamarine ring and a promise of marriage that never was. 168 pounds of man collapse. His nightshirt darkened with blood. 5'8" body falls, impacts bedroom floor. The Superman who believed ordinary laws did not apply learns that physics cares nothing for philosophy. Bullets travel, bodies fall, blood flows, silence replaces gunfire. 20th floor. Mary Hazelton wakes to rapid cracks, unmistakably gunfire. The sound out of place in Beekman Tower, where wealthy, unmarried professionals sleep secure in Art Deco luxury. She reaches for the telephone, calls the front desk, reports what she heard, shots, multiple, from above. Assistant night manager Leslie Tate takes the elevator from the lobby. Starts at the top floor, 21st, searching floor by floor for signs of disturbance. Each corridor empty, each apartment door closed. Descending, 19th floor. Woman sitting on the little sofa beside the elevator. Grey cloth coat with chinchilla collar. Close-fitting grey felt hat. Perfectly composed. Waiting. Tate approaches. The woman looks up, calm. No panic. No fear. She directs him upward with simple statement, "Up there. The door is open." He returns to the elevator, ascends to 21st floor, follows her direction, finds the open door, enters, bedroom, Fritz Gebhardt lying motionless on his side on the floor, blood-soaked nightshirt, body cooling. Tate sees at a glance what Mary Hazelton's ears reported violence has visited Beekman Tower. He returns to the hallway, telephone, police. The woman in the grey coat with chinchilla collar has disappeared from the 19th floor sofa. Police officers John Holden and Walter Mitchell arrive via service elevator. Begin searching. Find her on the third-floor landing of the back stairwell. Descending from 19, blocked by padlocked accordion gate, cannot proceed down. Trapped by building security designed to prevent exactly what she attempts unauthorized access to stairwells. She has abandoned the stairs, rung for the service elevator. When doors open, police stand inside, responding to Tight's call, finding the woman they seek before they knew they sought her. Holden demands her purse, large handbag clutched tight. She refuses. He reaches out, tears it from her grasp, opens it. First item, .32 caliber revolver, murder weapon, still warm from firing. Second box of bullets, ammunition supply, more than she needed. 4 shots fired, box half full. Third, 2 spent shell casings, proof of discharge, evidence linking gun to crime. Fourth, crumpled silk nightgown, fresh wet bloodstains dark against pale fabric. The nightgown she wore climbing the stairs, removed. Replaced with coat, stained with Fritz Gebhardt's blood. Fifth, her will, written November 9th or 10th, 2 days before the murder, dated, signed, anticipating death though whose death remains unclear. Sixth, Fritz Gebhardt's passport, German document, his photograph, his name, his permission to travel. Why does she carry this planning flight to Europe trophy? From his apartment symbol of control over man who controlled her 7th Fritz Gebhardt's apartment key. She had access all along, could enter whenever she chose. Did enter. Entered tonight. Entered and fired 4 times. Holden looks from the handbag contents to the woman. Did you shoot Dr. Gebhardt? Her response immediate. Yes, I did. But please don't ask me why I did it. 5 words of total honesty, 7 words of total evasion. Confession without explanation. Admission without defense. She acknowledges the act, refuses the motive. She claims she was on her way to turn herself in. The padlocked gate blocking her descent suggests otherwise. Self-surrender requires reaching street level, police station, confession to authorities. She got as far as the 3rd floor before architecture prevented further progress. Police take her into custody, transport her to station, begin interrogation, hours of questioning. She repeats only what she told Holden. Yes, I shot him. No, I will not explain why. The newspapers will call her the icy blonde for this silence. 4 months of refusing explanation while her father contacts Samuel Leibowitz, and the best criminal defense lawyer in America builds the story she will eventually tell. Police search her 19th floor apartment, find cache of correspondence between the couple, love letters exchanged during his European trip, her writing about fever and desire, his writing about steamers not fast enough to bring him home. Evidence of affair prosecutors will present to establish motive, find the note anticipating her death. Contents never disclosed. Whether she blames Gebhardt, apologizes to family, explains her despair, the document enters evidence, but never enters public record. Find the will matching the copy in her purse. Same date, same signature. Written 2 days before she climbed the back stairs with murder weapon. The evidence accumulates. Gun in her possession. Confession from her lips. Premeditation documented in will and suicide note. Physical evidence bloody nightgown. Passport. Key linking her to crime scene. 4 bullets in Fritz Gebhardt's body. 4 spent shells. 2 in her purse. 2 presumably at scene. What the evidence does not show bullet trajectories, whether she shot him face to face or from behind, whether shots came from close range suggesting struggle or distance suggesting execution, whether his body bears defensive wounds indicating he fought back, whether her body bears marks indicating rape. No medical examination of Vera documented. If she claimed rape at the scene, police could have confirmed or disproved it. If self-defense was genuine, documenting trauma would strengthen her case. The absence of medical evidence never mentioned in available sources constitutes significant omission. No forensic details about Gebhardt's wounds. Prosecution describes 4 bullets, blood-soaked nightshirt, body on floor. Does not describe trajectories, angles, powder burns, defensive injuries. Either the evidence was collected and not disclosed, or never collected at all. The crime scene yields physical facts: dead body, murder weapon, confession, does not yield the why. The motive remains locked in Vera's silence and Fritz's death. November 12th. Dawn breaks over Manhattan. Beekman Tower wakes to news that prominent German financier has been shot dead by his secretary, lover, the daughter of well-known musician. Newspapers begin gathering details. Reporters seek interviews. Vera Stretz, in police custody, says nothing beyond her initial confession. Frank Stretz, her father, begins making telephone calls. His daughter faces first-degree murder charge, mandatory death penalty, electric chair at Sing Sing if convicted. He needs the best lawyer money can buy. Fortunately, his musical career has made him prominent enough, wealthy enough, connected enough to access that lawyer, Samuel Leibowitz. 77 murder trials, 77 acquittals, currently defending the Scottsboro boys in Alabama, juggling one impossible case while preparing to take another. His record speaks for itself. If anyone can save Vera Stretz from execution, Leibowitz can. But first, he needs a defense. Confession eliminates claiming innocence. Premeditation eliminates claiming accident. Physical evidence eliminates claiming she was not present. The only possible defense justification: that she had reason, that what happened in that bedroom gave her right to fire 4 times. The story she will tell requires 4 months to construct. 4 months of silence while Leibowitz builds the narrative. 4 months of newspapers speculating. 4 months of Vera sitting in jail, refusing interviews, maintaining the icy facade that earns her tabloid nickname. The gun she showed Gebhardt in June for burglars fired in November for reasons that depend entirely on who tells the story. Her story will shock a courtroom, scandalize a city, and convince 12 men that defending honor justifies 4 bullets. His story died with him on the bedroom floor. The truth, if such thing exists separate from legal strategy and testimony, and the performance required to avoid execution, remains inaccessible, locked in a room where only 2 people were present. One will speak 13 hours. One will never speak again. The prosecution has confession, premeditation, physical evidence. The defense will have something more powerful: shame weaponized, sexual morality deployed, cultural anxiety about female sexuality transformed into reasonable doubt. But that comes later. First comes 4 months of silence, 4 months of the icy blonde refusing to speak, 4 months until Samuel Leibowitz constructs the perfect 1936 defense, the unnatural act that makes murder seem merciful. Chapter 6. The Great Defender, Samuel Simon Leibowitz. Born 1893 in Bucharest, Romania. Immigrated to the United States age 4, arriving with parents who sought better future than Eastern Europe offered Jews. Cornell University for undergraduate studies, Cornell Law School for professional training. By 1935, represented 78 persons charged with first-degree murder across his legal career. Record 77 acquittals, 1 hung jury, 0 convictions. Known throughout New York legal circles as the new Clarence Darrow, the attorney you contact when evidence says guilty, but you still want freedom. Currently defending the Scottsboro boys. 9 black teenagers accused of raping 2 white women on Alabama freight train. Evidence crumbles under examination. Medical testimony contradicts accusations. Alleged victim stories shift with each retelling, but all white Southern juries convict anyway. Leibowitz, working without fee, dismantles racist assumptions while protecting the myth of white womanhood's sanctity. The contradiction inherent in his strategy defending innocent men by reinforcing the very honor code that endangered them will serve him well when defending guilty clients who need that same honor code weaponized differently. Born in Romania. Cornell-educated, Jewish in WASP legal world. Leibowitz understands outsider status intimately, has learned to weaponize cultural anxiety better than any native-born lawyer, knows which prejudices to challenge, which to exploit, when to defend principle, and when to trade in acquittals. November 12, 1935. Vera Stretz sits in police custody, confessed to murder, found with smoking gun, bloody nightgown, victim's passport, and apartment key. Premeditation documented in will written 2 days before shooting. Physical evidence overwhelming. Motive obvious jealous rage over married lover's refusal to divorce. Frank Stretz, her father, makes telephone calls. His daughter faces first-degree murder charge. Mandatory death penalty if convicted. Electric chair at Sing Sing. He needs the best criminal lawyer money can buy. His musical career has made him prominent enough, wealthy enough, connected enough to access that lawyer. He sends for Samuel Leibowitz, the best criminal lawyer in the country. Leibowitz accepts. Fee unrecorded, but substantial estimated minimum $10,000 in 1936 currency, equivalent to $220,000 in modern terms. Frank Stretz's success as bandleader enables him to afford top counsel, the kind of fee that separates defendants who receive brilliant representation from those who receive whatever court assigns. Privilege purchases expertise. Expertise purchases freedom. This transaction, repeated throughout legal history, will repeat here. The question, can even Leibowitz save a client who confessed immediately, whose premeditation is documented, whose guilt is undeniable first meeting, jail cell. Vera Stretz, silent behind bars. Leibowitz studies her, educated, cultured, 31 years old, unmarried, German-speaking, the kind of woman who should not commit murder, which makes her exactly the kind of defendant Leibowitz specializes in defending. What happened that night? She cannot tell him, cannot tell anyone. The shame too great, the act too degrading, the words too unspeakable. Leibowitz, 77 victories behind him, recognizes what prosecutors will miss. She confessed to the shooting but refuses to explain why. The gap between admission and explanation contains the entire defense. Not what she did that is undeniable. Why she did it, that is everything. He advises complete silence. No interviews, no statements, no explanation to police, press, prosecutors. Let mystery build. Let newspapers speculate. Let the prosecution prepare for jealousy defense while he constructs something far more powerful. The newspapers call her the icy blonde. 4 months of refusing to speak. 4 months of sitting in jail, maintaining composure, giving reporters nothing to print except her silence. The nickname sticks cold, blonde, unreachable. The icy blonde who shot her lover 4 times and will not say why. Leibowitz controls the narrative by withholding it. Strategic mystery. Media obsession growing. Public fascination building. Everyone wants to know why Vera Stretz killed Fritz Gebhardt. Leibowitz ensures they will not learn until trial, when his version of why becomes the only version the jury hears. November 1935 through March 1936. 4 months of preparation, research into Gebhardt's background, investigation of his Nazi connections, documentation of his philosophy, his relationships, his character, building the case not around what Vera did, but around what Fritz was. The research yields ammunition. I service with Richthofen Squadron verified through military records, the Red Baron's legendary unit, heroism confirmed, but also association with Hermann Göring, fellow Richthofen pilot, now rising star in Nazi Party, friendship documented through contemporaneous sources, connection to regime implementing Nuremberg laws, persecuting Jews, preparing for war, German ambassadorship candidacy claimed in multiple sources, whether genuine consideration or self-promotion. The claim exists in print. Gebhardt positioned himself as potential diplomat representing Nazi Germany to United States. Anti-German sentiment rising in America. A dead Nazi sympathizer will generate less jury sympathy than dead American. Financial success documented. Approximately $500,000 in international business deals. Wealth earned through import-export between Europe and America, but also non-Aryan wife in Karlsruhe. Violation of Nazi racial purity laws. The mistake, from Nazi Germany's perspective, of marrying wrong. Yet Gebhardt separated from her, moved out, never divorced, maintained marital status while conducting affairs in New York. Leibowitz builds the monster. War hero becomes reminder of German aggression. Intellectual becomes purveyor of Superman philosophy, justifying exploitation. Businessman becomes Nazi collaborator. Married man becomes serial adulterer. Every fact weaponized. Every connection deployed to transform victim into villain. The Nietzsche angle proves particularly useful. Gebhardt told Vera that ordinary laws applied to ordinary people. But for unusual person, there must be different standards. Philosophy as seduction technique. Superman theory justifying whatever the superior man desires. Leibowitz will quote Nietzsche to the jury. Man shall be trained for war and woman for the recreation of the warrior. All else is folly. Make philosophy equal depravity in jurors' minds. Make Nietzsche equal Nazi. Make Nazi equal monster who deserved what happened. February 19th, 1936. 1 month before Stretz trial begins. Leibowitz quits the Hauptmann case. Bruno Richard Hauptmann, accused of kidnapping and murdering the Lindbergh baby, refuses to confess despite Leibowitz's persuasive efforts, won't cooperate, won't compromise. Leibowitz, admitting rare defeat, withdraws from the case. Hauptmann will be executed April 3rd, 1936, April 3rd. The same day Vera Stretz will walk free. 1 month between quitting Hauptmann and beginning Stretz. 1 month to shift from defending possibly innocent man, who won't help himself, to defending probably guilty woman, who will say whatever Leibowitz needs her to say. Fresh from rare defeat, seeking redemption. The Stretz case offers opportunity to demonstrate his brilliance anew. The strategic calculation crystallizes. Confession makes claiming innocence impossible. Premeditation makes claiming accident absurd. Physical evidence makes claiming she was not present ridiculous. Only possible defense justification. She had reason. What happened in that bedroom gave her right to fire 4 times. The defense requires making 12 men believe sexual degradation justifies 4 bullets. Requires making them hate a dead man more than they doubt a living woman. Requires weaponizing shame the jury's, Vera's, society's collective discomfort with female sexuality and male depravity. Leibowitz recognizes what prosecutors miss. 1936. America fears female sexuality more than female violence. Society can understand woman defending honor, cannot understand woman consenting to degradation. Make jury choose between believing respectable woman submitted to oral sex or believing she lied about it. In 1936, lying seems more plausible than consent. The cultural moment aligns perfectly. Rising anti-Nazi sentiment, fear of European war spreading, German nationals suspected of fifth column sympathies. Gebhardt's connections, once prestigious, now become liability. His philosophy, once seductive, now becomes evidence of moral corruption. His refusal to divorce non-Aryan wife, once admirable loyalty, now becomes proof of Nazi hypocrisy. 4 months of silence end when trial begins March 20th. 4 months of Leibowitz constructing the perfect 1936 defense. Not claiming Vera did not shoot Fritz Gebhardt, she confessed immediately. No jury would believe denial, claiming she had to shoot him, that what he demanded left her no choice. That honor matters more than life, his life specifically. The same man defending 9 innocent black teenagers in Alabama will defend 1 guilty white woman in Manhattan. Same brilliance, same legal skill, infinitely different clients, infinitely different justice. He fought racism to save the innocent, will weaponize sexism to save the guilty. Leibowitz does not traffic in ideology, trades in acquittals, has saved 77 people from death. Vera Stretz will be 78th. If you can afford him, he can save you. Frank Stretz can afford him. Therefore, Vera Stretz will be saved. The prosecution has confession, premeditation, physical evidence, clear motive. The defense will have something more powerful in 1936, courtroom shame weaponized, sexual morality deployed, cultural anxiety about female purity transformed into reasonable doubt sufficient for acquittal despite overwhelming guilt. But first, the trial. First, jury selection. First, questioning potential jurors about Nietzsche until 12 men who fear German philosophy more than they trust physical evidence take their seats. First, Vera on the stand for 13 hours, testifying through violent sobbing about the act so shameful she could not tell police. First, making those 12 men so uncomfortable hearing about oral sex that acquitting a confessed murderer seems preferable to continuing the trial. The icy blonde will melt. The silence will break. The story Leibowitz constructs over 4 months will be told. And 12 men, faced with choosing between believing the unthinkable about sex or accepting the undeniable about murder, will choose sex. They will choose to believe that defending honor from the degrading demand justifies 4 bullets into a sleeping man's chest. Samuel Leibowitz, 77 victories, 1 defeat, facing his 116th capital case, against confession, premeditation, physical evidence, with only shame, philosophy, and anti-Nazi sentiment as weapons. In April, he will have 78 victories, 0 defeats among capital cases where clients listened to his advice. Hauptmann dies April 3rd in electric chair. Vera walks free same day. Redemption achieved. Legend continued. The new Clarence Darrow proves again that in American justice, the right story matters more than the right facts. Chapter 7. The Trial of Shame. March 20th, 1936. New York County Court. Judge Cornelius F. Collins, presiding. Prosecutor Miles O'Brien, representing the people. Defense attorney Samuel S. Leibowitz, representing Vera Stretz, who faces first-degree murder charge carrying mandatory death penalty. Jury selection begins. Leibowitz questions each potential juror not about bias, background, or ability to serve impartially. Questions them about Friedrich Nietzsche. Do you know this philosopher? Have you read his works? Are you familiar with his concept of the Superman? the idea that extraordinary people transcend ordinary morality. Man shall be trained for war and woman for the recreation of the warrior. All else is folly. Leibowitz quotes this repeatedly. Each potential juror hears German philosophy equated with moral degeneracy before a single witness testifies. The strategy transparent contemporary newspapers predicted seems obvious. He will argue the defendant killed Gebhardt to prevent an unnatural assault, but transparency does not diminish effectiveness. 12 men selected. 12 men who now associate Nietzsche with depravity, German intellectualism with danger, philosophy with exploitation. Leibowitz is not selecting a jury. He is conducting a seminar on why certain men deserve killing. Prosecutor O'Brien rises for opening statement. 20 minutes. Remarkably brief for murder trial with confession, premeditation, physical evidence. His tone dry, matter of fact, bordering on bland. This woman and Gebhardt were having an affair. Something went wrong with it, and she killed him. It is that simple. O'Brien possesses evidence, confession, motive, witnesses. What he lacks is imagination. Assumes jury will convict based on facts. Never anticipates that shame can overwhelm facts. That cultural anxiety about female sexuality can override confession and premeditation. His confidence becomes his doom. Defense opening. Leibowitz rises. Nietzsche was Gebhardt's god. He proclaims, builds the Superman narrative. Philosophy as moral corruption. German as Nazi sympathizer. Married man as serial exploiter. War hero as reminder of German aggression. Each fact weaponized. Vera squeezed the trigger to protect herself from degrading advances of a brute who had sopped up a Superman complex from Nietzsche's writings. Frame established. Woman defending honor versus philosophically corrupt Nazi sympathizer. Jury must choose whom to believe, the living woman or the dead man's reputation. Leibowitz ensures the choice is easy. Vera Stretz takes the witness stand. 13 hours of direct testimony, 4 hours of cross-examination, 17 hours total over multiple days. Longest testimony in trial. She tells the love story. December 1934. Vulcania cruise to Caribbean. Meeting Fritz Gebhardt. Conversations in German. New Year's Eve in Havana. Dancing through the night. Kiss at midnight. Returning to New York. Dating. Quoting Oscar Wilde by April. Lake George, weekend in May. Registering as Mr. and Mrs. Gebhardt. Moving to Beekman Tower, 2 floors apart. Love letters exchanged. He called her Veralyn. She called him Darling Fritzy. His promises about divorce. The aquamarine ring in July that she interpreted as engagement. 13 hours to establish why she loved him. Why she believed his promises. Why November 8th devastated her when he announced he was not the marrying kind. Why she told him it was all over if he would not marry her. Why November 11th, when he called claiming stomach pain. She climbed the back stairs one final time. She testifies that she told him she would not continue as mistress. He became violent, threw her on the bed, raped her. Afterward, laughing, he said, "If you want to make it the last night, you will have to make it a good one." Then he demanded she perform an act of sodomy so foreign to her, so shameful, that she could not tell police when they arrested her with his blood on her nightgown. Judge Collins insists she describe it explicitly. Defense strategy requires it. Vera Stretz, through violent, uncontrollable sobbing, describes sexual act to 12 men who believe respectable women do not know such acts exist. The act she describes, oral sex, is legally sodomy, morally degradation, socially unspeakable, the perfect defense. Because who would lie about something so shameful? What respectable woman would invent a story requiring her to testify through violent sobbing about acts respectable women supposedly cannot name Leibowitz understands. In 1936, 12 men would rather believe murder was justified than believe a lady would submit to oral sex, or lie about it. Make jury choose between believing the unthinkable about sex or accepting the undeniable about murder. They choose sex. Cross-examination. O'Brien for 4 hours. She is a tigress when provoked. He insists. Killed in hot fever of jealousy because Gebhardt would not give up his wife. Hammers at her story. Searches for contradiction. Finds none. Cannot shake her testimony. Cannot produce single inconsistency. The prosecution has evidence. The defense has shame. Shame wins. Judge's instructions. 5 hours defining first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, reasonable doubt, excusable homicide, justifiable homicide. Then acidic closing. If you believe her story, acquit her. The sarcasm drips. Judge clearly doubts the defense. Skepticism evident to everyone present. Does not matter. Jury has already decided. Deliberation, 3 hours. Remarkably fast for murder trial. 17 hours of Vera's testimony compressed into 3 hours of discussion. Confession immediate. Premeditation documented. Evidence overwhelming. 3 hours later, not guilty. Judge Cornelius F. Collins, furious, leaves chambers without thanking jury for its service. Unprecedented breach of protocol. Unprecedented public display of disagreement with verdict. He presided over trial where honor mattered more than evidence, where shame overwhelmed confession, where sexual morality killed justice. April 3, 1936. Bruno Richard Hauptmann dies in Sing Sing's electric chair for kidnapping and murdering the Lindbergh baby. Same day. Vera Stretz walks free from New York County Court. Leibowitz quit the Hauptmann case 6 weeks earlier. 1 man dies. 1 woman walks free. Redemption achieved. 116th consecutive capital case without conviction. Chapter 8. The Price of Acquittal. April 4, 1936. Day after acquittal. Vera Stretz meets the press. Female reporter offers advice. Don't let this ruin your life. Vera responds with 4 words that contain total truth. My life is ruined already. Her only public statement post-trial. Photograph captures the moment Father Frank Stretz kissing her. Samuel Leibowitz standing to the right. Victory feels hollow. She escaped electric chair. Walked out of court, free woman. Knew immediately that freedom was just another kind of sentence. The acquittal had not saved her life, had ended the one she had known, and offered nothing in return. After April 4, 1936, no further public appearances, no interviews, no society page mentions, complete withdrawal from public life. The woman who dominated headlines for 5 months becomes invisible. Days pass, weeks, months, no sightings, no gossip columns. Vera Stretz vanishes, not into death. That would have been simpler. Into obscurity, into another name, into the American landscape where women who had done unforgivable things could disappear if they never sought attention again. Years later, court historians discover the defendant in this trial living under different name Laura Parr. When the name changed, why these details remain secret, buried with her ruined life. No public records document the transformation. Marriage, relocation. Legal name change all unknown. The woman who testified 13 hours becomes someone who never testified at all. Someone who never pulled a trigger. Someone named Laura. To kill someone is to become someone new. The law may acquit you. but you can never acquit yourself. So you become someone else. No death certificate found in available sources. No obituary located. No census records post-1940 identified. Later life completely undocumented. Whether she married as Laura Parr unknown. Whether she worked, had children, lived quietly, or struggled unknown. Date, location, cause of death unknown. She took those secrets to whatever grave bears whatever name she died under. April 10th, 1936. Good Friday. Exactly 7 days after Vera Stretz's acquittal. 22 Beekman Place. Blocks from Beekman Tower, where Fritz Gebhardt died. Nancy Titterton, 22 years old. Wife of NBC executive aspiring novelist. Found dead, raped, strangled, dumped face down in bathtub. The bathtub murder becomes tabloid sensation. Killer John Fiorenza, upholsterer who had repaired their furniture. The timing adds lurid appeal. 1 week to the day after Stretz acquittal. 1 block north of building where Gebhardt was shot. The Stretz verdict sent ripples. Not legal precedent, the case too unique for that, but cultural message. In right neighborhood, with right lawyer, with right story. Certain acts could be justified. Beekman Place accumulates reputation. 1935, Gebhardt murder. 1936, Titterton bathtub murder. 1943, Patsy Burton Lonergan bludgeoned by bisexual gigolo husband Wayne Lonergan. Bloody, bloody Beekman Place. The Art Deco tower that symbolized modern independence became monument to how little architecture matters when human darkness arrives. Wealth lived there. Death visited repeatedly. Geography does not create murder, but privilege can hide it. Wealth can defend it, and right address can make juries sympathize with killer long enough to acquit. Samuel Leibowitz continues his career. Completes 139 consecutive capital cases. Final record 138 acquittals or hung juries. 1 conviction. Eventually becomes judge. Many lawyers believe the Stretz case marked his peak as trial lawyer before he became one of New York courtroom's most respected judges. Never publicly discusses the case in detail. Dies 1978. 116 consecutive victories. Each one a life saved from execution. How many were innocent? How many were Vera Stretz? Leibowitz never distinguished. His job was saving lives, not sorting virtue. He defended Scottsboro boys with same brilliance he defended Vera Stretz. Same lawyer, same skill, infinitely different clients. Justice, it turned out, was less about truth than about storytelling. And Leibowitz was the century's best storyteller. There exists a particular vulnerability in loving someone who believes ordinary laws do not apply to them. Vera Stretz learned this. Fritz Gebhardt died from it. And 1936, America decided that feminine honor mattered more than masculine life, at least when both parties were white, educated, living at right address. Did Vera Stretz tell the truth about November 12, 1935? Did Fritz Gebhardt demand the act that cost him his life? Or did a scorned woman and brilliant lawyer construct the perfect 1936 defense one requiring only tears? 13 hours of testimony and jury of men terrified of female sexuality somewhere in America. An old woman named Laura Parr might have had the answer. If she lived long enough, if she remembered being Vera Stretz, if she could separate the story she told from the truth she lived, we will never know. She took that secret to whatever grave bears whatever name she died under. The gun that killed Fritz Gebhardt fired 4 bullets, but the real weapon was the story. And in 1936, the right story could make murder disappear, just like Vera Stretz herself disappeared into Laura Parr. into obscurity, into the American landscape, where women who had done unforgivable things could vanish if they never again sought spotlight. The Beekman Tower still stands. The bullets are long gone, but the question remains, was it murder, or was it self-defense? The jury said self-defense. History is not so sure, and Laura Parr, wherever she died, took the answer with her.